Okay.
All right, so hi guys and girls. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael. I was a student of Miss G's a while ago. I graduated in 2018 and I participated in Launchpad and I did well. I was brought on as an intern and now I'm the coordinator for Launchpad GBSC, which I've been very fortunate to be a part of these past couple years. And I'm here today with my professor from Binghamton University, where I study business administration, Professor Savisesh, and he will be discussing market research. And I'll leave that to him to go into, but I'll just say it's a very important part of the business plan. And as I was saying before, it's my personal favorite part of the business plan. There's a lot to it, and if you do it right, it really reflects well throughout your entire business plan and gives you a much more holistic view of what your idea is and how it's going to actually be implemented. So without further ado, Professor, take it away.
Thank you, Michael, for the quick introduction. My name is Savisesh. You can call me Savi in short. So I'm a PhD student at Binghamton University, and I also have the responsibility to teach. And that's how I met Michael in the last semester. He was in my class of marketing research. So I was told that I would be meeting a group of young entrepreneurs today, right? And I'm so proud to be here. And what you guys are doing is something amazing, especially at this age. I mean, your age, I don't know what I was doing. I don't even remember. I don't think I did anything significant, until I entered my undergrad. So this is a very proud moment for me because it's really, I mean, I'm very glad to see such, bright minds here. I'm sharing this room with 9 of you. And I hope that, your business ideas would someday help even revive the economy of Binghamton. So with that said, today I wanted to share some tips about, what marketing research is and probably make you understand why is it so important and how can we do it in the right way, okay? So I have a presentation for you. I will share that with Ms. G and Michael, and you can share with all the students in turn. So I'll just anchor on this presentation that I've made for you, okay? And I will try to make it a little interactive, but at the same time, give you a lot of, best practices on how to do research in the right way. Okay, so entrepreneurs, I don't have to define what you guys do, right? You're doing an amazing job. What you're trying to essentially do is that you're probably trying to develop a business, right? It can be in the form of a product or a service or a solution that you're offering. And it basically has 2 elements to it. One is the creative side and one is the practical or the implementation side of it, right? So you can broadly do this in 2 ways. One, either you can come up with a brilliant idea and try to sell your idea to the market, or you can basically identify some shortcomings in the existing market or some needs of the customers which are unmet, and then you can go about designing your products and services. So the one question which you would always find it tricky to answer is there a scientific way in which you can develop these business ideas? The answer is of course yes, and that is what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so let's look at the first scenario when young minds have some really creative or innovative ideas, and then they try to sell your products in the market. So I have a small video which I'm going to play. So just listen to it. It's a 1-minute video, and this is about a revolutionary product. The name of it is Google Glass. I don't know how many of you have come across this product. If you haven't, then just let's watch this video, and then I will open up a room for discussion later on. So are you able to hear the video? No? Okay. Let me do that again. Okay. Yes.
Here are the basics of how to use glass. This is your touchpad. It runs from your temple to your ear. Tap the touchpad to wake up glass. You should see the display above your line of sight. Adjust it to see everything. The home screen shows a clock. This is your timeline. It's a row of cards. Things to the left are happening now or coming up, like the weather, an upcoming flight, or an event in your calendar. You can tap on any card to see more. Swipe down anywhere to go back to the timeline. Cards to the right of the home screen are from the past, for example, messages, videos, or photos. Tap on a photo to share it and choose one of your friends. Swipe down to go back to standby. And have fun exploring.
Okay, so you just saw this product, right? How many of you have previous knowledge about this? Anyone in the class? Okay, I see Edward. All right. So this was a very sophisticated product, right? It was innovation at its core. Somebody at Google got this brilliant idea. They spent millions of dollars researching, and they tried to develop this product. And then they started to sell this in the market, right? And to give you a heads up, this was an epic failure. This product never, it never generated any revenues for them. It was a major loss for them. So looking at the video, can somebody think from an entrepreneurial perspective as to, what could have gone wrong? Anybody?
I wouldn't, if it was me, I wouldn't wear that thing on my face all the time.
Perfectly valid. Yes, that's a big concern you have.
I see several problems with this. First,
Uh-huh.
wait, when was this idea first came out? To give an idea, when was this idea came out?
I think it came around 2013.
I just think that it's so sophisticated that it's not very much doable. And also there's the problem of it could be a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, like when you're driving, you might get a notification.
Yes.
And then you may have to just try to take it away, but that sort of time of distraction could be a potentiality for a fatal accident potentially, or at least an accident, So, yeah.
Yes, very, very valid concerns.
For me, I definitely would not wear that on my face. It doesn't look appealing, especially if it's going to be something you're wearing. Like, the product is designed to kind of wear all the time, because otherwise I don't really see use for it. My phone can do all of the things that it can do, and I don't have to wear it on my face. So.
Yes, Kaylee. So you don't see a need for it, right? In simple words. Yeah, so I think most of you have already brought out these concerns, right? So if I think from a marketing perspective, one was who is my target customer and what purpose does this particular product serve? There was no clearly defined functionality, right? You saw a bunch of functions in the product, but then who's going to use it? Why is it beneficial to someone? Probably this product did not give a clear answer to that. And as many of you rightly pointed, there were design and safety concerns, right? You have to wear them for like 8 or 10 hours a day. How comfortable would you be doing that? And there were health concerns as well, because this is something which emits infrared radiation. So is it good, especially when you're wearing it so close to your eye, right? And there were some other factors which were not part of the ad, but one of them, which is very important, is the pricing of the product. So it was priced at $1,500. Now, in 2013, for that price, you could have bought like 2 brand iPhones, right? And that could do all the functionalities what this particular product is doing. So did they price it right? I don't think so. And there was no clear launch plan in the sense, where will you be able to buy this product? Will you get it in stores, or do you have to buy it online? Do you have vendors who are selling it? So none of these were actually defined. And this is the first category that I was talking about, right? You come up with a brilliant idea, you develop the product, and now you are trying to, convince customers, please come and buy them. So what is the problem here? The problem is you could have gone ahead and done some basic research as to whether customers would even be willing to purchase this product, right? How comfortable will they be using it? So if you had done any kind of research, the most basic thing is ask customers directly whether there is a demand for this product or not. So if you had done some of this research, even before you thought of making the product, you could have saved millions of dollars, right? And this is something which entrepreneurs will have to really look out at. So on a day-to-day basis, you will face a lot of these challenges. So if you're trying to develop a new product, is it needed? Will customers buy it if you launch it or not? Okay. If you're trying to tweak an existing product, improve on any existing products or services, then how should you do that? Whether there is demand for it or not. If you want to expand your market, right? If you're just launching your product in Binghamton versus you want to target the entire US, will there be takers for this product? How do you promote your product? So a lot of these challenges come as and when you develop your business plan, right? And if you realize all these challenges, they're not easy, right? They don't have a straightforward answer, because you will have to gather as much information as possible. Whenever you're making these decisions, they always carry some risk associated with it, because you're trying to do something new and you really don't know whether it will be a success or a failure. So what best you can do is you can try to minimize those risks as much as possible. And the best way to go about doing it is conduct some research before you actually think of even conceptualizing a product or a service, right? So if you start with marketing research, a lot of these problems are generally taken care of. And I'll try to motivate you into understanding, why this is really important and how can this be done. So if you look at CEOs who take business decisions on a day-to-day basis, they might have like 20, 30 years of experience, right? And that experience sometimes is good enough for them to take the best decisions. But young entrepreneurs, probably this is the first time you're even developing a business plan, right? So basically you don't have any experience in whatever you're trying to do. And then the best way to make decisions is to rely on some form of data. And that data is obtained through marketing research. Right, so any questions for me so far? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how to do marketing research, right? So you're basically trying to collect some form of data whenever you're trying to do research, right? And that can be of two forms. The first is secondary data, and the other category is primary data. So when it comes to secondary data, it's very simple. It is all the information that is already existing and available there, right? So I will try to anchor on one simple example. Say, for example, Binghamton does not have good seafood restaurants. And this is something which you, maybe because of your observations or with interacting with other people, you realize that probably there is a need for a good seafood restaurant in Binghamton. Okay, so let's take this as an example. Now, when you're doing secondary research, what is the best way to do? So most of you would just open up your Google browser and try to search for information, right? You basically type in certain keywords, and then it gives you a lot of search results, which are basically websites or other URL links, blogs, etc. So any of this data, which was already existing, somebody had collected this data for some other purpose, or basically they were blogs or customer reviews. So all this data was already existing. What you're trying to do is trying to find whatever information is relevant for you, right? So this is secondary data. You don't have to create the data on your own. The data already exists there. So some form of secondary research is very beneficial because it'll give you a pulse of what the current market is saying to you, what are customers saying to you. So if you go to Yelp and look at, say, the top 10 restaurants in Binghamton, you read those customer reviews, you will get an idea of what people are talking about, whether they are happy with the existing restaurants here or not, whether they have any complaints. If at all there are seafood restaurants, say, for example, are they priced rightly? Are the services good? So when you're looking at these customer reviews, you get a lot of information, right? This is one form of secondary research that you're doing. One thing to take care is when you're doing secondary research, when you're trying to gather all that information in the form of a business plan or a report, always quote these references because you are not the proprietary owner of this information, right? So it can lead to a lot of legal issues, your credibility, plagiarisms, etc. So it's always a good practice to quote secondary research sources. So is everyone clear on secondary research and what is secondary data?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other form is primary data. Now, this is something which is not existing, okay? So you may do secondary research and you realize that, okay, I get, say, 60% of the information, but I still don't know a lot of questions. And now is the need to go ahead and collect primary data. So primary data is any kind of original research that you would be doing. They're basically two kinds in nature. One is qualitative, where it's more, elaborate. Say, for example, if you're trying to interview somebody, right? So you ask them questions and they are free to respond in whatever way they want, right? So they basically give you a lot of textual information, verbal information. So that is qualitative, and that you're collecting it specifically for your project or business plan. And the other way is the other category is quantitative. So you can think of surveys. Here, what you're trying to do, you ask respondents some questions and you're giving them some responses to choose from, right? So say on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being extremely dissatisfied and 5 being extremely satisfied, how do you rate our services? So when you ask this question, you're giving them 5 options and basically you're assigning a number to them, 1 to 5, right? So you're trying to collect that information from them in the form of numbers. That is quantitative research. But whatever data you're doing, collecting here, this is something new, which you're doing it specifically to address your research problem or which helps in you developing your business plan. Okay. Questions? All good? Right. So the one thing to remember here is whenever you're trying to do primary research, it's always better to first do secondary research. This helps you understand what information is already present, right? It saves a lot of time and energy for you. So if all your questions can be answered through secondary research, well and good. But if not, only then try to do any kind of primary research. So for your age group, if at all you have to conduct any kind of primary research, then I would recommend surveys because they are really effective. If you do it in the right way, then you get the best of information. It doesn't take much of your time. Okay, so this is something you can quickly do and get some important information from your customers, right? So I'm sure you would have answered surveys sometime, right? Any kind of evaluations in your school. How do you rate the course, or how do you rate the instructor, etc. If you purchase something online, maybe some brands might end up sending surveys asking you for your experiences, etc. So all this is done basically to understand what's there in customers' mind, right? Because as an entrepreneur, it will be good if you can identify a need in the market and then try to develop or design a product, right? If that is the case, then it'll be very easy for you to sell the product to the customer because there was a need which was already existing. So through surveys, you can to a great extent understand or guess what those needs are. All right, so there is a scientific way of conducting these surveys, and probably this flow chart will help you remember how to design and develop these surveys. I'll quickly go through that. So you first start with an objective, right? So you're trying to develop a business plan. Say, for example, you have a question of whether you want to open a new seafood restaurant in Binghamton or not. So you start with that question, and then you basically decide whom are you going to survey, your sample. And then there are three important things that you need to take care of. Okay, so you have to first think of the question format. You then have to think about the question wordings, how you phrase these questions and what kind of options you give. And then once these questions are framed, you have to then think of arranging them in a logical sequence. Okay, so these three are the core steps. And once you do that, it's always a good practice to run your survey through a sample of 5 or 10 people. It can be your family, your friends, your school teachers, your mentors. You can get their opinion, right? So if they see anything out of the box or something, then you can always incorporate their feedback and then revise the survey. But this is how you mainly go about designing a survey. Let's look at each of them. I'm just going to share some tips from my experience that will help you design these surveys better. Okay, so you first decide the question format. So there are two kinds of questions that you can ask in a survey. Technically, they are called closed-ended and open-ended questions. Okay. There is a very simple difference between the two. Closed-ended questions mean that when you're asking a question, you're giving respondents certain options to choose from. And they have to choose from those 5 or 7 or 10 options, whatever you give them. Okay. But in open-ended questions, you have room for the participants to discuss more. So you ask them a question and you just simply give them a text box to fill. So they can type in sentences, they can be a little more verbal, they can express their opinions as it comes to their minds. Okay. And both of them are important in a survey. So let's look at an example. So the first one here is a closed-ended question. So what are you trying to ask here? Imagine that you bought a particular product from, say, Target or Walmart store, and they want to understand your experience. So a simple closed-ended question would be, how do you rate our buying experience, right? And now I'm giving them 5 options to choose from. And I've numbered them from 1 to 5, 1 being I hated it, 5 being I liked it. So this gives you limited information, whether people were happy with the buying experience or not. But sometimes there is need for you to understand more, right? So if somebody rated 1, it means that they hated the buying experience. So as a business owner, won't you be curious to know what went wrong, right? If someone rated a 5, that means it's very good service. So even then you might want to know, okay, what is it that we are doing good that we want to continue? So a closed-ended question will not give you an option to investigate that further. You just get a number or a rating from them and you are done. So if you want to investigate more, then you can ask them an open-ended question. So you can ask a question like, so what is the main reason for your score, right? So, or say, for example, if they rated 1, okay, please tell us how can we improve our experiences? So these are questions that you're asking them, and you're basically giving them a text box to type in their answers. And you're not restricting them by giving them any options. So this is an example of an open-ended question. And a mix of both is always good, because sometimes you want to get more information from people. But at the same time, you have to also be cognizant about the time that they spend answering your survey. If you give somebody a 30-question survey, which requires on an average 1 minute to answer, then not many people will be interested, right? Because they might not have the time, or if you don't give them any incentives, they don't bother. So you have to keep these surveys short. My recommendation is 8 to 10 questions. So if it's 10 questions, you can follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the questions can be closed-ended and 20% can be open-ended. So this gives you a wealth of information from customers. Any questions for me? All right, next, let's look at the wording. So the wording of the survey questions are also very important, right? So you should always try to keep it as simple as possible. It should not be ambiguous. There should not be any uncertainties. So the first thing that you need to follow is always focus on a single issue. So if you look at this question, the last 5 times you shopped at a supermarket, where did you shop and how many times each, right? So I might have shopped at 3 different stores. And then they are asking me how many times each. So this is like focusing on multiple issues. The biggest challenge here to even give them options, right? So you might have to make it an open-ended question or something. So this can be confusing. So my recommendation is you always make it simple and try to focus on just one issue per question. So in the first question, you can just ask, where did you shop, right? And then you can give them options. And from there, you can follow up with other questions. The second tip is do not induce any kind of biases in your respondents. Okay, so this is an example of a leading question. So what a leading question means is that you're trying to somehow hint customers that, hey, you know what, you should probably mark a 5 rather than 1, because that is what I'm looking for. Right? And this is inducing some kind of a bias in your customer, and you don't want that kind of responses. You want an unbiased response because you're trying to assess a market need here, right? So in this example, you're asking Americans, should they buy imported cars or not, when you're putting American labor out of work, right? So this is something negative, a negative effect of buying an imported car. And once you give this, then people are kind of, framed, or they get biased thinking that, okay, Americans may lose the job. So I would answer a no to this question, right? And this may not be a true reflection of their thinking, and that information might not help you in many ways. So make sure that you don't induce any kind of biases in the question. And the last one is an example of a double barrel question. That's what we call. So when you're asking any kind of questions, make sure that you're just focusing on a single attribute. So look at this example that, do you believe McDonald's has a fast and courteous service, right? So services has a lot of dimensions to it. So fast service can be different from a courteous service, right? And both of them have different meanings. So if you ask both these factors in the same question, the respondent might be confused as to, which one, like if there is a situation where they had a fast service, but they did not have a courteous service, what will you mark, right? So yeah, so make sure that all these questions are framed as simple as possible. When a third person reads the question, they should be able to understand what you're asking them. There should not be any ambiguity, and people should be able to answer these questions at ease without any biases. Questions for me? Okay, and the last part of it is sequencing. So I told you in a survey, you can probably have 8 to 10 questions. That's like the optimum. If you want more information, obviously you will have to go for more questions. But if you have 8 or 10 questions, then you have to also think about how do you sequence these questions, right? You can't just randomly place 10 questions, because at the end of the day, you are making people think in a certain way. And for that, the sequence of these questions really matter. So the first tip here is to always start with a screener question. So what do I mean by a screener question is that, imagine you are trying to, again, let's come back to the example of opening a seafood restaurant in Binghamton, right? You're floating the survey to 10 people, out of which 5 of them never go to a restaurant. Okay, they always cook at home. So the kind of information that you get from them, do you think it's going to be helpful to you? Because you're trying to assess a need, right? Whether there is demand for seafood in Binghamton or not. That's the first question you need to answer. So if there are people who don't go to restaurants at all, then but that information from them is not going to be of much use to you, right? So you start with screener questions so that you get the right participants to answer those surveys. So a simple screener question would be that, do you visit restaurants? Or in the past 3 months, how often have you visited a restaurant? So you get to know that, okay, fine. If they answer no, then you don't even have to, show the rest of the questions to this particular participant, right? So it's good to start with a screener question, and then you place the core survey, whatever 8 or 10 questions that you have. Now, in between, there might be a situation where you want to have a branching. Say, for example, seafood restaurants can come in two forms, right? It can be fine dining restaurants, or it can be a fast food restaurant. Both of them are different in the way they operate, and both of them will have different products. So if you want to know which of these two options would participants choose, or would they prefer, then you might have to do some kind of a branching, right? So if they answer fine dining, then you show them certain set of questions that relate to fine dining. If they answer fast food, then you show them a set of questions which are related to fast food. So sometimes if you have this kind of a branching scenario, then incorporating such questions will help you get better information. All right. And the last one is you always want to collect demographic information, right? So if it is seafood restaurant, right? So demographics is nothing but it pertains to various characteristics of an individual. Say, for example, age, marital status, whether you're a student or employed or not, what is your annual income, right? Which area do you live? So these are some of the questions which will help you. So if you look at seafood restaurant, right? If you collect the age of respondents, you may realize that, okay, there is more demand for seafood among the age group between 20 and 30 years. Then if you know this information, then you can go ahead and target these customers more specifically, right? Or say, for example, income group. Who are the people who are willing to go to a restaurant? Somebody who has a median income of, say, $50,000 a year. If that is the information that you get, then maybe approaching somebody with 30,000 annual income a year might not be very attractive, right? They may not even respond to your promotions and stuff. So some kind of demographic information will also help you narrow down on what particular customers you want to target. All right. I know this is a lot of information coming your way, and it's good that Michael is recording the session, so you can always go back to the video. You can always go back to my slides, and if you have any questions, I'm always available over emails. Okay, so any questions for me so far? Okay, and these surveys are very easy to create. Okay, there are a lot of tools that are available online. A lot of these websites that I've mentioned here, you can start with as simple as Google Forms, and everything else here is free. I mean, I use SurveyMonkey a lot, and I mean, they give you a lot of options to incorporate different kind of survey questions. So you can use any of these sources. Some of them even have templates that are already built for you. So if you want to, say, for example, conduct a customer satisfaction survey, there is a template that is already available for you. So you can look at those questions. If they make sense, retain them for your survey. If they don't, then you can alter those questions. But these are some of the sources that you can refer to, and you can easily go ahead and collect the information. And because they are all online, it becomes very easy, right? You just have to send the link to people. And if it's a short survey, if you tell them that it just takes like 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your time, people will be very willing to answer your surveys. So you can use any of these platforms later on. You can explore when there is a need for you to create a survey, right? So that's all I had for today. Okay. Again, I'm very proud to be part of this session today. I'm so pleased to meet such young entrepreneurs. Okay. I know that, I mean, you're already doing the more difficult part, that is to actually come up with an original idea, right? That's the most difficult part. What I've told you is something which will probably help you in developing business plan. It's something important for you. If you do it in the right way, then you'll have a greater probability of success. So I've given you practical side of things from my experience and what experts do in the industry. So I hope that you implement or incorporate this kind of a research before you actually come up with your final decision. Okay. So that's all I had for today. I've left my details here. And any of you who want to contact me for anything related to your business plan, I'll always be, very thrilled to help you.
Thank you
So
very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I can take any questions that you have right now.
Any questions?
Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. I'd love to chime in for a second, but obviously we're here to answer any questions if you have them. But yeah, thank you so much, Professor. This has been amazing. I don't know if you noticed, but earlier in the presentation, I was laughing a little bit because I realized when I was emailing you, I had mixed up primary and secondary research, and I flipped the two.
That's
Dumb
fine.
moment. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. But yeah, this was amazing. And to you guys, it's been nice coming in and getting to see your faces. And this presentation, I know it was a lot to take in, and I know that you guys are underway with your market research. But just to know, like, as a college senior studying this stuff, this is the stuff that I'm doing my senior year of college, and this is stuff that you guys are doing right now. So if you guys pursue business and go into this, you'll see this again, and you'll be much better off if you take this seriously now, put in the work, and flesh out, that the market research and the business idea. And to that note, if you aren't going into business, every one of you is going to work for a company. I can pretty much guarantee that. And to understand the customer is really going to be the determining factor on whether you succeed at that company or if you don't, So yeah, thank you guys.
Beautifully summarized, Michael.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. G.
Thank you.
It's an honor to meet everyone. I wish you all the very best, okay? And if there is any way I can help you all, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, have a wonderful